The bridge has been shattered, and the President of the United States has taken to social media to flaunt the destruction, leaving behind a chilling warning: be careful or you'll be sent back to the Stone Age. This was clearly a direct message aimed at Tehran, and in a fit of calculated rage, Iran responded instantly. Without a second thought, the Islamic Republic unleashed a torrent of fire, signaling that the era of strategic patience has officially ended. The geopolitical chessboard has been kicked over, and both sides are now playing for keeps. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, has just activated the 91st wave of its massive offensive, codenamed True Promise 4. If the previous 90 waves were seen as mere skirmishes, this latest escalation is a different beast entirely. It is a terrifyingly large-scale operation, coordinated across multiple fronts, involving proxies from Yemen to Lebanon. According to field reports, Iran has launched a sustained salvo of heavy ballistic missiles aimed directly at Israel's primary economic and military hubs, specifically targeting the high-density urban centers of Tel Aviv and Haifa. The sheer pressure from this rain of missiles has been so overwhelming that regional media outlets report nearly 5 million Israeli citizens have been forced to abandon their daily lives, seeking refuge in underground bunkers. High-sensitivity airbases such as Tel Nof and Palmachim, and even Ben Gurion International Airport are prominently featured on Iran's target list. The fact that Tehran can simultaneously fire and accurately strike strategic targets from northern to southern Israel demonstrates that their operational coordination remains formidable. Despite enduring over a month of coalition airstrikes, Iran's command structure appears not only intact but increasingly aggressive. A chilling development in the April 3rd strikes was the confirmed appearance of cluster warheads on Iranian ballistic missiles. The Times of Israel has admitted that at least one such missile successfully penetrated the vaunted Iron Dome and Arrow defense shields, raining submunitions down on 10 different locations in central Israel. While it was a miracle that no fatalities were reported in this specific instance, the damage to residential housing and critical road infrastructure has sounded a deafening alarm. The saturation of the interceptor systems is no longer a theoretical risk, it is a current reality. Instead of relying on a single, large warhead that is relatively easy for an Aegis or Patriot system to track and destroy, Iranian engineers have pivoted to fragmentation warheads. These create a cloud of debris and submunitions that confuse radar and exponentially increase the probability of a successful breach. Simultaneously, US military installations in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia are no longer safe zones, as they have come under repeated fire from Iranian ballistic batteries. Iran is executing a synchronized pain strategy designed to force Washington into a corner. Either continue the spiral of escalation or accept a ceasefire on Tehran's terms. On social media, President Donald Trump did not hesitate to take credit for the strike on Bridge B1, posting a video of a massive plume of smoke rising from the wreckage. His caption was forged in steel: "This is only the beginning." The message from the White House is unmistakable. The United States is prepared to systematically dismantle Iran's entire civilian and military infrastructure, from bridges and highways to power grids and refineries, if Tehran refuses to surrender to the negotiating table. This is maximum pressure translated into kinetic destruction. However, the attack on Bridge B1 has ignited a firestorm of controversy regarding its legitimacy as a military target. Washington insists the bridge was a vital supply artery for mobile missile units and UAV transport teams. Conversely, Iran has produced evidence suggesting the bridge was a purely civilian project, one that hadn't even been officially inaugurated. The Iranian Foreign Ministry argues that targeting unfinished civilian works won't break the will of their people. Instead, it only serves to evaporate what little international credibility the US has left. Trump's hit them in the stomach and the wallet tactic is hitting a massive wall of national pride. Both sides have now laid their cards on the table. Trump claims the US hasn't even started destroying what's left, while Iran vows that the more their infrastructure is hit, the stronger they will rebuild. One side bets on the destructive power of technology, the other on the endurance of pride and asymmetric defiance. Behind the scenes of these iron-fisted proclamations, Trump's social media plea to get a deal done before it's too late suggests that Washington is starting to feel the heat of a forever war. Protecting a vast geographic area from the constant harassment of proxies in Yemen and Lebanon is draining American resources faster than Pentagon planners anticipated. The current situation resembles two high-speed vehicles hurtling toward each other on a narrow, one-lane bridge. If neither side hits the brakes, and if no heavyweight mediator can cool the engines, Bridge B1 won't be the only thing to collapse. The true casualty will be the stability of the global economy and international security as the price of oil and human blood rises by the hour. When warfare spills across the borders of a dozen territories, from the UAE and Iraq to Cyprus and Lebanon, the line between a regional conflict and a global catastrophe becomes dangerously blurred. Many still harbor the illusion that major wars are always meticulously programmed by genius strategists. However, international historians offer a more sobering perspective. Wars often begin through sheer stupidity, ego, or a catastrophic miscalculation of the opponent's resolve. Look back at the First World War in 1914. A single assassination in Sarajevo triggered a web of overlapping alliances that dragged all of Europe into the furnace. Austria-Hungary hit Serbia, Germany backed Austria, Russia aided Serbia, France followed Russia, and eventually Britain jumped in. It was a schoolyard brawl scaled up to a continental slaughter, where pride and treaty commitments pushed combatants into a trap from which there was no exit. We are seeing those same tripwires being set in the Middle East today. In our modern context, the definition of a world war is tied to the direct involvement of the world's leading superpowers. If WWW1 was a game of European empires and World War II added the US, Japan, and China, the burning question now is, will Russia and China be willing to jump into the fire alongside the US and Iran? Currently, there are two opposing views on this escalation. One side believes the big war has already begun. The leadership in Ukraine has long warned that we are in the opening chapters of World War III, a conflict where Russia is attempting to impose a new global order through raw military force. However, most observers believe that Iran and its axis of resistance, including the Houthis, are the most volatile detonators. If Tehran decides to play its final card, the total closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the global energy supply will be strangled in an instant. At that point, the war ceases to be a Middle Eastern affair. It will drag every oil-dependent superpower into the vortex. More dangerously, the chaos in the Middle East is creating opportunity gaps in other theaters. While Washington is distracted by B-52 sorties and million-dollar interceptors in Iran, it becomes vulnerable elsewhere. Russia may accelerate its gains in Ukraine, while China might recalculate its move regarding the Taiwan Strait. This is the nightmare of conflict contagion. In contrast to these pessimistic forecasts, some experts believe Russia and China are too pragmatic to join the fight directly. For them, seeing the United States get mired in a desert Waterloo is actually a strategic gift. China, despite the pain of high oil prices, sees a greater benefit in the exhaustion of American military and financial resources. Beijing's approach appears cold and calculating. When your opponent is making a massive strategic mistake, stay out of the way and let them finish. A distracted America in the Gulf is worth far more to Chinese interests than a few cents of fluctuation in the price of fuel. On the Russian side, while they provide intelligence support to Iran, their primary goal remains using the Middle East as a balancing sheet to pressure the US over Ukraine. Russia is currently winning the economic war due to record-high oil prices and is actively exploiting the internal fractures within NATO to weaken American influence in Europe. History proves that establishing peace is always harder than starting a war. Once leaders have invested so much blood and treasure, their domestic pride makes failure unacceptable. They will continue to fight long after the hope of victory has vanished, simply because they refuse to admit they were wrong. When you look at the staggering casualty figures in Ukraine, which some suggest have surpassed total US casualties from all of Dorvitoi, you can see the horrific price of a protracted conflict. The stubbornness of leaders, fueled by ideology or illusions of power, is what turns a local clash into a decade-long catastrophe. So, where is the exit ramp? The answer lies in a return to reality in Washington, Tel Aviv, and Tehran. All parties must understand they have reached the limit of what can be gained through kinetic force. Continued bombardment will not produce a win, only mutual self-destruction. A sustainable ceasefire requires heavyweight mediation and a clear roadmap for sanction relief and security guarantees. Diplomacy at this stage is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity to prevent a schoolyard brawl from becoming a nuclear disaster with no survivors. The world is at a fork in the road. Sit down and talk, or let pride lead the way into a new dark age of total war.